Welcome back to our five-part series on the Lauren Smith Fields case. On December 12th, 2021, at 6:30 a.m., Matt LaFountain called 911 because Lauren Smith Fields was in her bed with him, non-responsive with fluid coming out of her nose. She wasn't breathing. We're going to take it from there. We got Arianthe with me. We got Lux with me.
Hello. I'm still posting it. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. I'm going to open the mics up. What's going on, Arianthe? How are you doing this evening?
I'm good.
We are going to get into it today. We are going to ask the question, who is Matt LaFountain? I've explained the black and white of 6:30 a.m. December 12th, 2021, already out loud, Arianthe. So we're going to just start with who is Matt LaFountain in this story.
Here we go.
I have an article pulled up from Heavy titled Five Facts You Need to Know About Matthew LaFountain. And the first one is, LaFountain's attorney says he is not the main focus of the investigation anymore. Now I'm going to play this video and we're going to full screen this bad boy.
We have another I-Team report tonight for you. A criminal investigation now has been launched in Bridgeport, Connecticut, after the medical examiner ruled that 23-year-old Lauren Smith Fields died from an accidental drug overdose. Investigative reporter Sarah Wallace says there's a separate investigation into the actions of case detectives.
This is exactly what we have been screaming and crying for.
Reaction from the attorney representing Lauren Smith Fields' family after learning Bridgeport police narcotics and vice detectives with assistance from the federal DEA will now investigate what led to the death of the 23-year-old fitness buff in her apartment last month. Yesterday, the Office of the Medical Examiner ruled her death an accident, saying she overdosed on a combination of fentanyl, prescription drugs, and alcohol. According to this police report we obtained, an older man who said he had met Lauren on a dating app called 911, but there is no mention of drugs in the narrative.
So fentanyl is the top drug, and then they have a couple other drugs they found in her system that are typically associated with date rape drugs. And so we want to know the source of that stuff.
We don't know how they spoke to the man, if they questioned him. We don't know anything. As far as we know, they just gave him a pat on the back.
In an exclusive sit-down interview with us last week, the family accused detectives of mishandling the investigation from the beginning, failing to collect evidence and refusing to provide any information on the status of the probe.
They thought they was gonna just throw her away like she was
Garbage.
like she wasn't important, like she didn't have family members that loved her.
With mounting pressure on the police department, the mayor yesterday issued a public statement confirming an internal affairs investigation that we first reported, saying there is no tolerance for anything less than respect and sensitivity for family members and their loss.
We're going through this over and over again, and just we're grieving. We got to fight and grieve and be our own prosecutor, be our own investigator. It's crazy. This is nonsense when the police should just do their job.
The attorney says he now plans to write the Justice Department, asking for a full civil rights investigation into the actions of the police department.
That was a good place to stop in this video. As we all know, this whole thing started with a lawsuit for failure to investigate, and we've already seen some repercussions happen in Bridgeport PD over this. So if we've missed that detail, when we build our timeline tomorrow, we will expound upon some of the more just timeline, the chronology of the situation. But Matt LaFountain, let's see what this says here.
I just want to make one point.
Yes.
Before we go into this.
Oh, please.
Mom was so offended that Lakeem called her garbage. Like, did you see the way she reacted? She, looked at him really suddenly and then had to kind of compose herself and carry on with the interview. So I'm wondering if that was a conversation they had. Do not fucking call her garbage.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
Or maybe it just caught her off guard that he said that and she felt really sad about it for a second. But I just want to be clear, that was a reaction.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't get to that reaction from that mother without there being an obvious level of disrespect thrown her way about her daughter who is no longer with us.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've ever been more offended for a family in a situation that we've covered on this channel.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen protesters outside of doors and stuff like this, but the amount of degrading the quality of human Lauren was is disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the
It's-
amount of it.
Yeah. It's the blatant uncare
I just wanted to start
that this
there.
way it was handled. I just,
Yeah. Here's a statement from Carianis. This is LaFountain's attorney. I think it's the media that's made him the main focus of this investigation. Although Bridgeport police did investigate the matter, he did fully cooperate, and he's not the main focus of the investigation anymore. As we know, the DEA is involved now, and they will help local authorities investigate the matter and get down to the bottom of what happened to Lauren. And I have no faith in Bridgeport PD or the DEA to actually step in and get justice in this case. I won't lie. And I understand completely why Lakeem and Everett and Chantel don't want to give their DNA up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 100%
Well, they
on
shouldn't
their
have
side.
to.
They shouldn't have to, considering that every bit of this investigation had to be pushed by, like, they had to push for
Well,
it.
I mean, the other part of that, though, is that, first of all, they weren't there. Secondly, they
Yeah.
probably have alibis. So, like,
Yeah.
there's no reason to even request DNA from
Lakeem says he stopped by in the evening.
That's
but again,
Lakeem, though.
Yeah, that's
And
only one
he
person.
offered his DNA.
And the family's
the
DNA 's
request for the entire family's DNA just seems so sketch.
Yeah.
so sketchy to me. It's obvious Bridgeport's priorities in covering this up and making it quiet.
Yeah.
But that's why I feel like that. Let's see. He continues to say, we will continue to cooperate with authorities to help definitively determine what happened to Lauren on that evening, and we want her family to find some peace after this heartbreaking loss. My client has been cooperating with authorities since day one. And I just, no. While he has, it's because it's the good old boys club. Of course he's been cooperating with people who showed up on his side.
Yeah, well, we've heard my clients are cooperating with authorities fully and completely before, haven't we?
We sure have.
I'm going to check on something real quick. I thought I heard something.
Yeah.
Like, I'm afraid the cat might have done something back here.
Oh, is the cat getting into trouble? Number 2 on this list is police are investigating the deaths as a crime, but the medical examiner ruled it accidental. Again, this is from, let's see, at Honeybee33 on Twitter. It says, everyday police fail us. They failed Gabby Petito. They are now failing Lauren Smith Fields. There's no reason that Matthew LaFountain shouldn't be investigated. He was the last to see Lauren alive. He said himself she passed out. Hashtag Bridgeport Police. What happened to Lauren? According to CNN, Smithfield's death is now being investigated as a crime per Bridgeport Police. CNN reported that the department's Narcotics and Vice Division has opened an investigation and will be assisted by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. We talked about that. That came after the medical examiner ruled Smithfield's death accidental and caused by acute intoxication due to the combined effects of fentanyl, promethazine, and hydroxyzine and alcohol. Oof. The network calls it an overdose on CNN. Let's see here. LaFountain told police he woke up to find Smithfield's not breathing. According to News 8, an incident report says that a man Smithfields met on a dating app told police that he woke up to find Smithfields with blood coming out of her right nostril. She was not breathing. Now, let's see. The officer said the man identified by other sites as LaFountain was frantic and was trembling and visibly shaken. I want to talk about this man's character a bit. Again, what we know is he showed up with a bottle of tequila. His manner at 6:30 a.m. December 12th is described as shaken and visibly frantic.
I would be too.
I would be too if my life was falling down, like crumbling around me, and I'd killed somebody. Rolling Stone reported that Smithfields had asked LaFountain for $40 to do her nails and to meet her at her Bridgeport residence, where they took shots of tequila. What that failed to mention is that Matt LaFountain brought the tequila at Lauren's request. It was her preferred drink, I suppose. That's the implication I get from it. And
I don't know if I want to say that was a request. We don't really know that she asked for that.
not so we get the
For
text
all we
receipts.
know-
That was his initial reporting of it.
Yeah,
though.
like
that's on his
when I-
account.
right?
Is
When
what I should say.
but
Yeah.
the way I take that is more like he probably asked her what she liked to drink, and then showed up with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do on a first date,
Also kind of
or not really a first date,
pushy
but
man
like,
shit.
yeah,
If you're being
like if
pushy, I want to sleep with you, man.
if you have an intention,
Yeah.
you show up with it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I mean, that does make sense. Let's see. They allegedly played games, ate food, and began to watch a movie when Smithfields received a text. Let's see. He thought it was odd, but didn't feel it was his place to say anything as he didn't know her that well. The officer... her brother and she went outside to get something from him before returning to go into the bathroom. You know, if the brother said, Lakeem says he was there to get laundry, I just, no matter what that was, it's the person inside of that house there with her all night that needs to be the head of this investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Or not the head, but needs to be the person of interest.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. An attorney for Smithfield's family called the investigation botched. That's not necessarily a fact about, Let's see, I believe this is from Crossland, the attorney that we saw speaking on behalf of the Smithfields camp earlier. The Emmy findings doesn't cure any Bridgeport Police Department lack of process. In fact, it makes it worse. As a result of botched investigation this morning, we are left with more questions than answers. I've never seen a medical examiner conclude a mixture of drugs as an accident without knowing who provided the drugs or how it was ingested. Lauren didn't use drugs.
That's a fair point.
Yeah. So
Like,
again,
how do you know it's an accident?
yeah, whoever Matt is, he has the police on his side.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he knows somebody. There's something going on.
Somebody gave that information to the Emmy and passed on the body
Mm-hmm.
and told him or her, whoever the Emmy is, whatever version Matt LaFountain told them. And whether that was intentional or not,
Yeah.
I'm sure the Emmy took that into account when doing the autopsy. It was like, oh, well, this is what they said, so it must be an accident.
Yeah.
And that can happen subconsciously.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I would imagine making some rulings as a coroner or as a medical examiner, you have to rely a little bit on the details of what came before you. So even if he's not a knowing, like you said, not a knowing participant, just the lack of information he would have gotten from the investigators.
But
and
like the
detectives.
question then becomes, how did this Emmy come to the conclusion that it's an accident versus a homicide?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like
Yeah.
there were specific things that were told to the ME that, from Matt LaFountain's perspective, made it seem like an accident.
Well, and it just, again, speaks to me that, like, the investigators and the detective, the people that were on site
Or
that
whatever
morning,
Yeah.
were 100% on his side, no questions asked. For whatever reason. And I don't know, again, I'm much like the Brian Laundrie story in the Moab police, I'm calling good old boys club. I think he was immediately, even if he didn't know them, like actually know them, feels like good old boys club stuff to me. Like they're gonna take his word over the, deceased and the paperwork and the nonsense, and they're gonna just take his side and move on. And it's disgusting. I'm so tired of seeing it pop up. It's one of the things that got me so heated initially about this case is Matt LaFountain and the way it seems like he has an in with them almost. But we're talking about the more you dig into Bridgeport, that is a corrupted, that is some of the worst policing you'll see. You have people discharged all the time for botching investigations or straight being criminals themselves. They have a problem. They have a problem in that town. It's bizarre. Let's see here. Number 5 on the list we have... Where did it go? LaFountain is a design engineer. Daily Mail reported that LaFountain is a design engineer. LaFountain works as a design engineer at Connecticut-based company, or at a Connecticut-based company, the site reported. So, he's from Milford, Connecticut. Everything I've read is that he's, from Milford, Connecticut. He's a design engineer. I believe I found connections where he is friends with a man named Detective Cronin. And I believe Detective Cronin was on site at one point on this case. On the books or off the books, I'm not sure. I'm still digging into a certain couple of angles on this thing, but that's the photo right here I have pulled up of Matt LaFountain. It's the photo that he's used on his social media profiles, but I've seen so many contradicting photos of this guy. Things I know about him. Most likely shaved head white guy. 37 years old. Engineer. Arianthe, do you know anything else about Matt LaFountain? What do you know? What have you found?
Oh, man. So digging for Matt LaFountain is very interesting because in Connecticut there's 4. And they're all about the same age. And so I was like, what in the heck? It wasn't until I found out that he was an engineer that I could kind of deduce it down to one person. And he just seems like the type of dude that was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. And he buys and sells properties. And he has his money and he makes his money and he goes on adventures.
Yeah.
He seems to pop up in random places that I've skimmed through.
That's one thing that seemed, it definitely seemed like an avid traveler the more I dug into it, assuming it was the same Matt LaFountain. He'll also online, I guess, go as Matt Man, but I've yet to confirm if that's just a troll account made as him or something. I don't know. Or they just use the same kind of stock photo of this guy. But again, I've seen photos where Matt doesn't look anything like this photo that's been going around.
I wonder, because the police are so tight-lipped. So the more I dig into this case, the more I bring it to my stepdad. My stepdad has been a part of my life almost my whole life, and he was a police officer for almost 40 years. So the more I dig into it, I keep bringing him things, and he asked me a really interesting question today, and so I'm going to bring it to you guys.
Okay.
He said, are we positive that the person that you're looking at is the person that was at her apartment that night, or was she catfished? Police know because they're very hesitant to release any information about Matt. Hell, it wasn't even them that released the name initially.
That's been my hang up this whole time. Now, what I can say is they have confirmed the person who they're talking about in the press right now as Matt LaFountain was definitely the person that was there. So
but are we sure it is this man right here?
Oh yeah, this photo, no clue. That's kind of my whole. That's my question too. Is I've seen so many contradictory photos, and this photo is used on a couple different dating profiles for different Matts. It's hard to tell. Yeah, and again, like I've seen photos of him looking scrawnier. I've seen photos of him looking way less attractive than this photo. I will say that.
Yeah. So I found a Twitter that supposedly had belonged to Matt LaFountain that lived in Connecticut, and it does not look like the same person.
No, it really
it looks very, very different.
I saw a photo on I wonder if I can find it. It was from local news in Connecticut, and the photo they shared looked nothing. I mean, it looked like somebody who, when I saw the photo, the story I'd built in my mind was, oh, this person brought the bottle of alcohol to this date because he's 100% confident he might get ran off. Like, he might get told, you're not at all what's in that photo. and you're not at all who I thought I was talking to.
Right, this could be
Yeah.
an old picture.
An old, well, and not even old, like just a straight up different person. Like, that,
Yeah, it seems very, very, I dare say, professional. Like, this
Yeah.
photo was taken by a very nice camera.
yeah, exactly. And all the other photos I've seen of this supposed Matt LaFountain character are not professionally done. They're normally like cheap cell phone cams from kind of below.
Yeah, like they were definitely taken on a potato in 2004.
And yeah, an old Nokia brick took this photo. That's how it.
Yeah.
That's how it vibed to me with photos.
It was
of
the
this guy.
MySpace picture before it was the Twitter picture, kind of like that.
Yeah. It also says he's 37 and single, according to his attorney. Again, I think he knows his attorney personally. His attorney, Carianis,
Yes.
I did some digging on him. He's a personal injury lawyer. The majority of the cases that Carianis has handled he's early in his career. Obviously, he's 41 years old. Carianis, the attorney. So they're in age to have known each other, potentially, at least, but even familially, have known each other and been friends growing up or coming up. That's my working opinion. Because why hire Carianis? This dude, again, he's an ambulance chaser.
Yeah.
He's a personal injury lawsuit attorney. Like, he doesn't do criminal defense. I don't know why that's happening. But again, I'm starting to think that maybe the state won't actually press charges against Matt, and it's disgusting. I had said this to
Yeah, I don't
Jameson.
think so.
I'd said this in the Discord to Jameson the other night. I said, I got a feeling maybe Matt, Detective Cronin, Carianis, and maybe a few other judges in that area go to the same lodge.
Yeah.
I got a feeling they know each other in some way, and my question is there a judge in that state that would be down to that would hold a court to press charges against Matt potentially? Would the state
Yeah,
even
it was
go
just-
forward with it? Is
It
there?
was a very interesting thing that my stepdad had asked me. He's like, "Are you sure? Are you sure that's even him? Like, maybe his name is Matt LaFountain, right? Maybe it is. Sure, yeah, it is. But is it this person right here? Are you sure you're trying to dig for the same person that they're talking about?"
Oh, and you can't go off of this photo. No.
Right,
100%,
exactly. And
100%.
so I asked him, I said, "So how should I go about it?" And he was like, "I would just stop because stuff's going to come out."
Yeah. Oh yeah. More details are going to happen.
'Cause
You're gonna have.
I've been so fucked up by this.
We're gonna have the
I dropped it. Dang it.
You're fine. We're gonna have the text receipts.
Yeah.
We're gonna have the text receipts soon. So it's on. It's on. I mean, we're gonna know exactly the type of person, what kind of things he says to a woman who's approached him on Bumble.
Yeah. So I also brought the police station in question, and my stepdad's very, very protective when it comes to talking smack about cops, right? And he's one for almost 40 years. So I get it. And the second I started to dive into the way they handled it, he said, "They know him." And I went, "You're right."
Yeah. Jameson chimed in the text chat here with something interesting. It's alleged that Cronin, Detective Cronin, somebody who I said is, I've got a connection between Detective Cronin and Matt LaFountain. So there is a Matt LaFountain. Again, don't know what he looks like, but he's friends with Carianis, and he's friends with a cat named Detective Cronin. Jameson did a little digging, and he found out that Cronin used to date a top member of Internal Affairs in Bridgeport.
Boom.
So again, we're gonna unravel threads of police corruption in this, and we're gonna find out how Matt LaFountain knows these cops. He knows these police officers.
He knows somebody.
He's comfortable being a scumbag in Bridgeport.
Yeah, something that I would be interested in knowing is how many police officers have either allegations against them, have been removed from their position, or have just been, straight up fired for abusing their power. I'm trying to say it in a way where YouTube's not going to get mad. Abusing their power with a date R word drug. I think drug's going to ruin it. Sorry.
An inebriant designed specifically
Yes.
with the intent to sexually abuse that person. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. This is what you're talking about is a date rape drug.
I would love to see the numbers on that and
Yeah.
then see how those. I want to hear from those women. I want to hear what happened to them,
Yeah.
and if some of them died, I want to know how.
No, it is my. Well, here's the thing about GHB in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
It's a problem there, and it's
It is.
strange. It's strange that place has a GHB issue. Now, I think that with someone like Matt LaFountain comfortable being a scumbag, he probably bought something, again, a liquid form drug that he thought was GHB, but wasn't. We know people. So you buy a bunk pill, it kills somebody all the time. I lose friends all the time because of that, all the time. And again, like character profile, I think Matt LaFountain, it's you don't. I need to find the exact quote of what he said day of. But his candor to the police. And the way he focused, the way he tells the story about how they drank, we drank. We drank the tequila straight. She went to the bathroom and got sick. So we started drinking it with chasers. Now, here's the thing. Any friend of mine that's ever told a story about us getting too drunk or me puking or like having to take care of someone else, you always talk about the pause, the break, the bread, the coffee.
Yeah.
The thing you imbibed that wasn't alcohol before you continued drinking.
Yeah.
There's none of that.
I've never had a moment where I've gotten drunk with a friend.
Yeah.
Or anyone that I've given any kind of care to.
Yeah.
And had them throw up and me not go, okay, stop.
Yeah.
We're done.
And what that says to me verbally is that is this lifted? All right. What that says to me verbally about Matt is that his main goal that night was not. It was obviously sexual, and he had designed his evening to get her intoxicated.
Yeah.
And you can tell by his statements. Again, no pause or care for the individual he's drinking with, just a measured account of how much alcohol went into her, which means he was also paying attention to that.
Yeah, that's what I found really interesting is that he was paying attention to how much alcohol she was consuming.
Why? I mean,
because there's dosage charts. I mean, what?
Yeah, and you would like if I'm telling a story about drinking with a friend and we clear a whole bottle, I might say we cleared the whole bottle.
Yeah.
We at one point made taquitos and burned ourselves, but had to eat taquitos because we drank so quick. Like there's none of these things that you have. If he was what he said he was to Lauren, he doesn't talk like it to the police. The day that she passed away, he definitely doesn't sound like a friend.
Not once have I even heard about the potential of them eating anything. So
they didn't have dinner. They didn't. Yeah, it said like they had a snack. Is what
just from his story
press
alone
reported.
tells you there was no intention for dinner.
No intention for
Like
dinner.
he
was trying to get into bed. He was trying to get her drunk and get into bed.
That's why they were at her place.
Yep.
That's why he went in. Like you don't do shit like that on the first date.
Nope.
Not even if it's a one night stand. You still go to dinner.
And he has said multiple times to his attorney and to the police the day of that there was no sexual intercourse, and the nature of their meeting was not sexual. Even though there was lube, blood on the sheets, and a condom in the trash can in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. I don't buy his story.
What are you talking about?
It would be different if you would, I don't know. My friends that are women that I've drank with, it's like, I might throw a blanket over you on your couch, but I'm going home. We're going to crawl in bed with you. You're definitely not going to find a condom and lube everywhere. What happened in that apartment? He's lying.
And that also further proves they can't necessarily prove that the lube was even hers.
No.
Like they don't know what he brought over for real.
Exactly.
Truthfully, they don't know
Mm-hmm.
because they never looked into it.
And I hold firm, just because of the GHB issue in that area, that they need to search and chemically, like, they need to check for residue of the chemicals found in her body on every disposable body, or every disposable bottle, every permanent water bottle. They need to check his personal cups. Like, you can trace the residue of fentanyl pretty hard.
Which is something they didn't do.
No, they did not run for the presence of fentanyl in that apartment.
Did he? So, I'm sorry. Did he even mention that she looked like she was on something, or no?
Yes, he tried to say she seemed incredibly intoxicated. Lakeem refutes that, because he showed up like a couple minutes before midnight, December 11th, that evening, when they were drinking, and said she didn't even seem that drunk. But he said she was very intoxicated, so much so that she had puked and came back, and they had to start using chasers.
Well, I mean, by that point, it's also almost, you're talking about midnight to 6 a.m. So
Here's another thing about your first big hit of any opiate, something like fentanyl, it makes you puke. And, you know, again, I hold the theory that he asked, what would you like to drink? And she said tequila, a specific kind. He went and got it. And
or what's your favorite drink?
exactly.
That's usually a icebreaker.
Yeah. So he did. I think the tequila was her preference.
Tried
and I
to
think
get
she
brownie
wanted to
points.
drink it straight. Right? Something was off about it. She puked, and then that's the chase. Like, the chaser doesn't make sense to me. Why switch to chaser? Why would Lauren be, why would she need it? It's her preferred drink.
Because
If it's her preferred drink,
Because
and
it's
at the
drugs.
same time, if she
It tastes like fentanyl.
if she there's kind of common sense there most of the time. Like, I don't understand why people act like young women are just so uncontrollable when it comes to their drinking. There is
No.
a moment where you're like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah. This is it. This is I'm done for the evening. Yeah.
Even if you black out,
Well, that's
you're
why-
done at some point.
That's why I think she had a force there that was like, let's keep going, let's keep going. I think he was trying to pump alcohol into her. And again, why you don't do the way he even talks about that evening? That's a sexual intent. His intent is to get her clothes off. Let's be real. It's obvious.
He's 37.
Yeah.
The girl is 23
Yep.
and black. And I know I've mentioned this before, but older dudes sometimes have that weird thing
They fetishize.
about that being like an exotic
Exactly.
thing for them to fucking achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And that just,
Yeah.
it almost reads that way because it doesn't seem like there was any regard for her well-being.
Or her
At all, by
value
any
to her
point
humanity in
the
any way
evening.
by him.
Yeah.
Like, as if I broke this thing I had, or this thing I had broke, it wasn't me. And it's like, this is a human. And you just said on record that you guys were friends of a not sexual nature. Is this how you treat your friend? Is this the things you say about an evening drinking with your friend? I can say I know a single person that's accounted a story of us being drunk in that way.
Like,
One.
I just think that speaks volumes. The fact that even in his statement, not once is there food.
No.
Like, that doesn't sit right with me.
You didn't take her out to dinner.
He didn't bring dinner, for God's sake.
Yeah. No.
He didn't bring anything. What were they going to do? Have chips from her pantry? No.
And if he would have,
If anything, they could have ordered DoorDash.
there's no friendly anything involved in the interaction. Why are you there?
I'm wondering
Are you there
if
to
they're-
talk about her
I'm
YouTube
wondering
videos?
if
I
they
doubt
know
it,
that-
man.
They know about the drugs and the alcohol in her system, but did they find what she ate? What was
Yeah.
the last thing she ate?
Oh yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
like, I haven't heard about that in the autopsy.
Yeah. What was the last thing she ate? What was her genuine last 24 hours? Like, Bridgeport has handled this worse than any policing we've covered on this channel. This is by far put such a spur in my side that I'm looking actively right now for nonprofits and charities specifically tooled toward gathering money to fight police corruption in cases like Bridgeport. Jameson says in the chat here, just while I've segued into police corruption. Connecticut have let's see, they fired 3 different police officers for unethical actions. And the last what? Oh, and the state forced Bridgeport to rehire them. Oh, whoa, Jameson, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's crazy. Really telling of,
Well, I mean, there were already, 2 police officers that were suspended from the cases involving both Lauren Smith Fields and, oh gosh, what was the other lady?
Brenda Lee Rawls. I was just
Yes.
fixing to ask if there was a connection between the two of them.
Well, the weird
because
part is that
died in their
they
sleep.
died the same day, and it's almost reading as if she was also drugged. Like,
Well,
it's almost,
it's
almost reading similar to how Lauren Smith Fields died.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came across it, and she had also gone out with a guy that she had met on December 11th, and December 12th she was found dead in her apartment as well.
See, I think there was a bunk batch of some fake GHB going around. And I think this same crew of people who were looking to do what you do with GHB got a hold of it. And everybody who had that batch died because it wasn't GHB, it was fentanyl, promethazine, and hydroxyzine. Man. Disgusting.
Yeah.
Disgusting. Hold on, I was going to... pull up Bridgeport, Connecticut here. Let's see what we've got. Here we go.
Evening. I'm Christine Johnson.
I'm Maurice Dubois. Dana is off tonight, and we begin here at 6 with 2 Bridgeport police detectives suspended tonight.
They're being investigated for their handling of the deaths of 2 black women. The families of 23-year-old Lauren Smith Fields and 53-year-old Brenda Lee Rawls say Bridgeport police never alerted them their loved ones had died. CBS 2's Leah Michigan reports now.
Never told the family that Brenda passed.
Yes, it is the same stuff over and over with Bridgeport. Like, this is absolutely related. It's the same 2 police officers. And I wouldn't be surprised if, look, guys, Bridgeport, Connecticut as a town has 4 active gangs. 4. In Bridgeport, not 2, not Bloods and Crips. 4 active gangs that hate each other.
With about 155,000 people in the area.
Yeah.
Also, with
What's
10
going
drug
on?
rehabilitation centers. 10.
And you know what those 10 drug rehabilitation centers have ready to go that other drug rehabilitation centers don't have? Treatment for GHB abuse. That's a peripheral treatment. That's something you see as a conjunction with other, like with a major drug addiction. They are specifically ready in Bridgeport to deal with GHB addicts.
Yeah.
What the hell? Someone's manufacturing it, and that person knows the cops. And it may be even using the cops to push this bunk GHB. Or maybe it's, you never know with the fentanyl. I know a lot of it is made in northern Mexico now. A lot of the stuff we have on the street is processed in northern Mexico and brought up here.
So, I have a question.
Yes.
Do we know how long it takes for those other 3 drugs to leave the system?
They're all on the scale of, I think, prescriptions. So I think they stay in your system for like days, as opposed to like marijuana, I think, is the one thing that hangs around the longest in your system. But but I really know most about spectral analysis of urine. I don't know much about blood testing or follicle testing. So a follicle, it should be there if she was alive and grew hair while she had taken it, I would imagine. But maybe that takes a couple days or so after the ingestion. But hair keeps growing after you've passed, so it should show up, hopefully, at least in follicle tests.
That's really interesting. I did a little bit of research on GHB earlier, and I found out that it takes somewhere between 1 to 5, depending on how much you've taken, hours to completely leave the system.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so I wonder if there wasn't a period of time where they were like, let's wait it out and let this shit leave her system before we let the family know.
Oh, absolutely. That I think the time. I think genuinely these two cops thought they'd wiped their hands of both of these cases, and it wasn't going to go any further. I don't think there was even like a time frame they thought they'd get caught.
Yeah.
Like, I think they just thought it was over, and who knows how many times they've already done this in the past.
Right.
This isn't the first time they've done it, and this ain't the second time they've done it, and I guarantee there's a train of it, and everything those two detectives have touched needs to be reopened. I mean, if it's a homicide, it needs to be reopened. Their career needs to be invalid at this point. I don't think anything they've ever done. I think it was all done with the purpose of covering up things or making it easier on their life, or who knows the motive of those particular two police officers. Racism, systemic issues that we've talked about with police corruption, or, again, I'm never going to rule out the potentiality of the Great Resignation. Maybe they're just moved. Maybe they made a quick judgment from a perspective of white privilege and kind of shitheel entitlement, and did that typical, like we hear the news talk about, anybody black in Bridgeport. Like, oh, it must just be a streetwalker moving on. And it's like, that's not what happened. And you're a cop, and this is a death. Do your job.
So where are your notes?
Do your job. Yeah, do your job. Where's your notes? Do your job.
They didn't even look at the scene that night.
No, they didn't do a proper evaluation of it. They didn't treat it like a crime scene. They treated it like it was exactly what Matt said it was, and then just moved on. Just took his word. And again, I'm not going to roll the Great Resignation, but I think he maybe knew them. I think it was Good Old Boys Club, but again, I'm not going to rule out right now that they're also just two cops who are like, I'm trying to get back to Pokemon Go. I don't give a shit about my job or people. Because they...
Do you want to hear some crazy...
Oh, yes.
Do you want to hear some crazy stuff? Did you know that 67% of all drug overdoses in the United States happen in Connecticut?
Jeez, that place has a massive drug.
You know how
problem.
small that state is?
It's tiny.
It's that's
Then again,
crazy.
most states are small to me.
Hey, yeah, Texas, yeah. I bet Arkansas seems
If it doesn't
small.
take 3 days to get across the state, it's not big enough.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm gonna let's push forward a little bit in this this coverage here about these two detectives while we're fired up about the police force and
See, like,
Matt potentially knowing them.
Even Jameson thinks it's bullshit. Like,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, this makes no sense how they thought that this defense was what they were gonna come up with.
Oh, it's the most racist defense I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's the most racist talking points I've ever seen. Like it's honestly helped me cue into a good amount of my own audience for being racist. Like I've stopped.
Or some kind of discriminatory.
Or bigoted in some way. Like bigoted either by class or, again, like we talked about this before we went on air today, but again, the shallow nonsense that Lauren might have been a sugar baby. Number one, I've yet to find another person that was a sugar baby, and if the bigoted opinions are that Matt was the sugar daddy, they met December 8th, and she was dead by the 12th. Sugar babies live lives on yachts.
Yeah.
Something Lauren did not do and is not doing right now. I'll hear none of it.
And that's
I'll hear none of it. She wasn't.
it's
That's,
how do you, and I'm not trying to make this like specifically about her race, but also, how the hell do you watch our content and turn around and say stuff like that about her? Because it's almost like you'd say the same thing about me.
Oh, it's disgusting.
Like,
It's
Everybody
see me
that,
all
that
the
plays a
freaking
part.
time.
It's
like,
disgusting.
You see me
Considering
on
we
this
met
channel
in a
so
similar
much.
way, too.
Yeah.
Like, we met in a similar way to Lauren and Matt. And
Everybody that
Yeah.
makes this show what it is a minority. So if you're
Yeah.
gonna come in here,
yeah,
Like,
I'm Jewish. Lux is
I'm
black.
native.
Yeah, that we're not on that side. we're not.
No.
We're definitely not gonna put up with it.
It's been very interesting, that's for sure. It's like some people that I really love and I care about, which anybody who becomes a part of Merc Radio I love and care about, but I'm like, why
Oh, yeah.
you? You know?
Oh yeah. It's definitely let me learn lately who is who I appreciate for their likes, follows, and subscribes, but I don't need to hear from you.
Yeah.
I'm good. Fan wall.
Yeah.
You can be a fan. That's fine. Yeah. James says it's not just disgusting. It makes no sense. Nothing put forth fits the timeline. Exactly. Tomorrow.
It doesn't fit the timeline. It doesn't fit any sort of reality where this would have been acceptable by the police. Like, how do you just blatantly ignore the crime scene?
Yep.
Like that. Just that alone. Is that what they're teaching you at the police academy? Don't get me wrong, they don't teach you the law. That I'll know that for sure. How do you,
Not in
how do you
Bridgeport,
go into
Connecticut.
6 months of freaking police academy training and expect to enforce the law? First of all, I think that's what's wrong with this country.
Yeah.
Is that you spend more time in school being a lawyer than you do becoming a cop.
Which is
How are you allowed to handle a gun and a taser, Kim Potter, after 6 months?
Kim Potter. I'll say it again. Kim Potter.
Yeah,
Potter.
I'm name dropping.
Kim Potter, who went out of the way for extra training in those firearms.
Yeah. Still didn't get it right.
Still didn't get it right. I think you're right. I don't think we as a nation or as individual states provide enough to our law enforcement to make that job even fucking worth it.
Right.
And I think we get a lot of people who just float through it and bounce out, or just don't do their job well. You get that job malaise. And this isn't a factory job. This isn't a factory position being a cop that we're talking about here. This is
You shouldn't be wanting to pump out cops as fast as possible, as many as possible. You should want quality cops.
Yeah.
And they're
We
picking
don't
the
want
wrong
that
people
for
for
some
police
reason.
officers.
Yeah.
They really are. Like, the wrong people get through to become police officers. I don't know how many times my stepdad has complained because he gets somebody that comes through the academy and they're brand new and they come in and he's like, hey, what made you want to be a cop? And he's like, I want to catch the bad guys. He's like, nope,
Nope.
we're in trouble.
We're in trouble
This
here.
is not the person
Because
that
now
we
you're
should
looking
have.
at-
And I agree.
Now you're looking at everybody like a bad guy.
I'm here to protect my
Or you're
community.
looking at
Yeah.
everybody like Peacemaker.
Exactly. I'm here to protect.
Yeah.
I'm here to protect my community and actually get some justice for people who need it and can't get it themselves. I'm not. Yeah, it's insane. And during the Trump administration, they had changed the definition of protect and serve for our police officers. And I've genuinely noticed a difference in the type of people they're hiring.
Yeah.
There's back home
There's
in where I'm
There's some
from, I
crazy-
feel like I get along well enough with them, but again, that's good old boy stuff, and I'm normally pretty nauseated when I'm done with a conversation with the police back home, just because I get the Brian Laundrie treatment. I get the I get the I'm the good one and blah blah blah, and they talk about my family like my family's trash, and
Yeah.
you just kind of have to go along with it because they have a gun on their hip and could shoot me and not. And then I'd still probably manage catching a charge somehow. That's,
Yeah. While you're laying on the ground bleeding,
It's-
they're going to put you in handcuffs. That's
But it
exactly
all-
what's going to
it
happen.
literally all starts with the recruitment. They're so desperate to give people incentives to join the force that they really don't care about the quality of the person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And that's in the country. That's not just Bridgeport.
yeah, very true.
Yeah.
I say that because I've done those before. As an event manager, there's people that will rent out convention centers and other venues to specifically do recruitments, and like all day long they'll sit there and talk about all the incentives and all the perks that you get. But they're looking for bodies, they're not looking for people,
Humans
That's
with
one of my-
compassion.
humans.
Yeah, it's one of my biggest
Critical
pet
thinking
peeves when it comes to
skills.
military recruiting.
Yeah.
They walk into high schools with these big flashy cars and they're like, you could have one too if you just put your life on the line, you know?
Let's see. Jameson made a really good point here. It looks like point blank innocent people not only get justice, but they get convicted because of cops like this.
Not only don't
Let's see.
get
Oh, not
justice.
only don't get justice, but yeah, also get convicted because of cops like this. Yeah. And I feel like, again, like Bridgeport trying to pin this on the family.
Because That's
they
despicable.
they move 2 cops away from the thing so they can have deniability and say they're doing the right thing now, and then just continue the same MO of obfuscation and false allegations.
And then get mad because the family's asking questions that they can't answer.
They can't answer
They can't answer
didn't do
because
their
they
job.
weren't paying attention in the first place.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Matt LaFountain is potentially allowed to find another person to drug.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
That's what irks me the most about this is he's still scrolling Bumble right now.
He could potentially be.
I mean,
Well, yeah, because now he has this sense of like I'm untouchable hair flip.
If the bald piece of shit had any. Again, I'm gonna assume he's much like Brian Laundrie and most of the offenders and pieces of shit we cover on this channel. I'm gonna say he's a bald white. He's a bald white man. And let's hope we don't see him on a game cam and there's no manhunt. Again, if he is cooperating, I'd like to see if his story or demeanor changes if he was a person of interest. I wonder if maybe the cops have said that, but I hope they've kept him as a person of interest, and they're just saying that so he stays put. But they can't. They have to announce if he's a person of interest. They have to tell him.
They have to provide a reason why if he's not.
They need to.
Because you can't just
move on like that
you
and
can't
say
just
he's
say,
not the
oh,
main focus.
he's not a suspect, and then demand
DNA.
Lakeem's and the rest of the family's DNA as if they're suspects. No, they're the ones asking questions.
Yeah.
You're literally trying to intimidate them to a point where they'll shut up by asking for their DNA.
How about
the crazy part is everybody's got alibis.
And did they do a rape kit on that body? Because
I highly doubt it.
Because here's the thing.
Yeah, I highly doubt.
His own statement is that they did not have sex that night, but there is lube on that bed and a condom in the bathroom.
I want to know whose sperm is in that condom.
Too.
Matt's, and I guarantee it's Matt's.
Yeah.
Sperm in that condom. They need to focus on that, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's disgusting. I'm gonna hit play on this. Let's see what the rest. This is again about the two police in Bridgeport.
She was not only my sister. She was my best friend.
Bridgeport resident Brenda Lee Rawls was one of 9 siblings. She didn't have any kids, but was very close to her nieces and nephews. The 53-year-old spoke to her sister Dorothy Washington every day.
She was a funny person.
On Saturday, December 11, Rawls told her siblings she was going to an acquaintance's house, a man who lived on the same street. 3 days later, the family was worried. She wasn't answering calls or texts, so they went to his place to find her.
He said with a smirk and a laugh, "No, Brenda, she died Sunday."
The family says all they have is his word that he tried to wake their sister up Sunday morning, but she never did. He called 911 and she was pronounced dead on the scene.
In my opinion, he had something to do with it.
Washington says her sister was in good health. The autopsy results are still pending.
As they were walking away from his house, he yelled out and said, "Can you tell me what the autopsy say?"
Washington doesn't understand why police never notified her family about the death. She says the apartment was never searched for evidence. They don't even know if police ever questioned the acquaintance.
I don't know if she was a black female in a low-income area, and they thought nobody would miss her.
The family called police, hospitals, funeral homes to locate Rawls' body. Bridgeport police will not take questions from us, but did put out a late statement saying there was no sign of trauma or evidence of foul play on the victim's body. On Sunday, Bridgeport...
Oh, sorry, Jameson chimed in with a really interesting point here. Manufacturing evidence. No, I think they would absolutely. I think Bridgeport, that's why they want the DNA is to manufacture evidence or to, again, try to build a narrative off of placing Lakeem in the apartment when he says he never went into the apartment. They just met outside.
But that's the thing, is it also wouldn't be shocking if his DNA was in there.
Yeah, and that's manufacturing evidence because of course they would be there. That's manufacturing evidence and a narrative, and absolutely, Jameson, they're trying to build everything off of fabricated nonsense. Like, yeah, of course the family's DNA is going to be in a place where they helped her move into it. I bet his prints are on everything. He probably, as it's her brother, it's probably moved the couch into that apartment with her.
I find it so interesting that they're trying really hard to place Lakeem there whenever they know they can place Matt there.
Yeah, he's already there. Like he's You know,
And
it
they're
starts
like,
with
Not
Matt
but
there.
yeah.
in there either. He already admitted he was there. He didn't go in.
Right.
He was there that night.
Yeah, and
He
Lakeem's
said
been
that.
up front. He's like, yeah, I was absolutely there that night. Like the story that Matt tells of
It's
her
just
coming
so
out
interesting.
to give me something was absolutely something that happened. And
It's so weird for them to be like, yeah, well, her brother was here. Okay.
yeah.
Y'all ain't ever visited your siblings.
And furthermore, Lakeem was present when the family insisted that the authorities come collect an unidentified pill along with the other evidence in the apartment. If the family thought that Lakeem had something to do with it and they were trying to hide Lakeem's involvement, why would they turn a pill over that he supposedly fucking sold her? And why would a drug dealer turn over a piece of product over to the police? It doesn't make sense. That story's nonsense. Like, it doesn't make any sense unless you're a bigot. Like, it doesn't. Like, it doesn't make any actual sense unless you're a bigot and give I don't know, or just can't read. I don't.
Its mayor announced 2 detectives named Llanos and Cronin were suspended from duties.
Insensitivity, disrespect.
It was Cronin that got suspended.
Yeah.
Respect in action or deviation from policy will not be tolerated.
Washington says the mayor should have taken action weeks
That's the
ago.
other thing. We're not even talking about going the extra mile. We're talking about doing your job right.
Yeah.
When even the mayor is sitting there like, no, that's against policy what you did to both of these cases.
To both of them.
How do you, first of all, how much, like, even if you did go through police training, then you should know what policy is. You should be following it. So, like, why didn't you?
How didn't you?
Yeah, like that. If that's drilled into your brain, and that's like the bare minimum you should be doing at your job as a police officer, yeah, you're gonna get suspended for it, and yeah, it's gonna look bad. That's why there's a policy.
It's just so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. I want to thank Jameson in the text chat for coming in with that, though. With the manufacturing of evidence, that is absolutely what I think they're trying to do. It feels, and it's one of those things where it's like if you throw that out about the police, people say, well, like, oh, you mean like the OJ defense? And it's like, no, I mean like Bridgeport, Connecticut is corrupt.
Yeah.
And there's no reason, like, the feds should be involved at this point in a massive way. It needs to be more than just the DEA. The FBI needs to be involved.
He was forced to do it.
The family said...
Or anybody. A higher court than any of the courts that are going to be around Bridgeport or even in Connecticut. Like, it doesn't need to be handled by any of the corruption with it. That state needs help. Help.
They think the Bridgeport Police Department needs a complete overhaul, and they want the DOJ
Yeah,
or the FBI
it does.
to step in to take over this
They already want the
investigation.
FBI.
In Bridgeport, Connecticut, Leah Mishkin, CBS 2 News.
The family of the other Connecticut woman plans to sue the Bridgeport Police Department.
Ooh.
23-year-old Lauren Smith Fields was found dead in her home
And they
while
did open
reportedly
that.
on a date in December. Autopsy results show Smith Fields had alcohol and drugs in her system, including fentanyl. Her family says police did not notify them about the death and that some evidence wasn't processed until weeks later.
It's mind-boggling to me that even if you didn't follow policy to the T, that's so heartbreaking to know you didn't even tell the family. You didn't even bother to tell the family.
Jameson says Mayor...
In both instances.
Mayor Ganem's role and authority is already being challenged in the suspensions, by the way. Dang. Yeah.
Well, it starts from the top. Like, I'm not shocked. I'm not saying that the mayor is right by any means in the way that this was handled in his city. Like, I'm not saying that at all. If they were rightfully suspended, they should be fired. Because that's just a blatant disregard for the policy at that point. You don't even tell the family?
And then
much
kind
less
of
assess the scene.
and then kind of laugh when someone asks.
Yeah.
Like that's not
Oh,
how you
oh,
handle
well,
that.
she's dead. What?
Had 2 days
That's
ago.
her sister.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even treat them like people.
It's disgusting there. Disgusting there. I think Matt's friends with them and knows it and is part of that group, part of this group of people.
See, this is so Jameson said I would send an article, but it's behind a paywall. He did make a point earlier too. A lot of the stuff that he's reading about
Bridgeport.
police corruption in Bridgeport is all behind a paywall.
Yeah, no. Bridgeport does its best to hide everything it can about its dirty deeds, and it's Bridgeport's 4 active gangs. Like, I wonder how many gangs in all of Connecticut there are.
Yeah.
As I've done some digging, I run into that too. I'm like, oh, this is an interesting article. You click on it, and they're like, for $9.99.
Yeah, you only get gangs when
This is
there's
ridiculous.
You only get gangs
Because they
when there's
don't
things to
want you to
fight
win.
over too. So the resources, the drugs, the money, the paywalls, transparency. Bridgeport has none of
Lack
it.
thereof.
There's no transparency in their policing or governance in any way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen a more like hellish, stuck in gangland 70s kind of place.
It
It's so
almost, it
weird.
really does almost make you think they absolutely knew where that drug came from.
Oh, look, I think particularly Cronin does.
Mhm.
I think they know. They have to be involved in the manufacture, or at least in the distribution of it, or know the manufacturer of it. And there's got to be some GHB and fake GHB coming out of Bridgeport specifically.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these gang members of these 4 gangs I've found because they've been busted selling GHB. So weird. It's not, there's something wrong. There's something going on. There's a conspiracy. Legitimately.
So, I just did a quick Google search for reported gang activity in Connecticut, and I came up with 23 different gangs.
20, yeah, that sounds like it probably be right for Connecticut. And again, you don't get a problem like that unless there's a resource to fight over. You don't have an organized underground market unless there's a market for something underground, something illegal. And it feels to me, like you pointed out with the overdose rates in Connecticut alone, they have a massive narcotics issue.
Yeah.
They have a massive narcotics issue. And if I had to gamble why there's 23 gangs, it's because there's narcotics being pushed on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then I came up with this. This is a map of it's called therealstreets.com. I posted it in the YouTube chat.
Oh, whoa. Okay. That's Hartford. So yeah, even Hartford has, 4 or 5?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hartford County.
Well, if you go through that, there's a list right underneath it just from Hartford. There's many.
Yeah, East Hartford. Yeah,
Oh,
look at
so
that.
yeah, there it is.
Oh, whoa. Yeah, like 23. Probably, yeah, a lot. See if there's any that I recognize from Bridgeport.
There's 30 on this list from Hartford.
Bridgeport has like the 105 Street Gang. It has the East Side Boys. I want to say there was another one, and the Green Hollow Boys was one of them. None of them attached to Lakeem or Lauren, as far as I can tell. By the way, again, the shade people try to throw at Lakeem is he got arrested once for DUI for being on Suboxone, but I've driven on Suboxone. Was trying to get clean. It happens. He's not gang affiliate. He's not a known drug dealer anywhere other than Reddit. There's not.
Yeah.
Anywhere other than bigoted Reddit.
Where they call him an opiate addict.
Yeah. Well, and I am. So I certainly wouldn't throw shade at somebody trying their best to get off of it. If you're on Suboxone, that shows you're trying to get off of opiates. in most cases. So again, I've yet to see anything but an attempt at rehabilitation from the young man, and support him in that. Be a hypocrite if I said otherwise too. Also an opiate addict. Shit's hard. It sucks being an opiate addict.
Yeah.
It's not easy to deal with. It's not an easy life, and I couldn't imagine having my skin tone criminalized, and I, get pulled over for nonsense. We've covered on this channel more than once people getting pulled over for some nonsense, and it's only because they're the bigoted cop and they were black. Bridgeport, Connecticut news. Let's see, deadly drive-by shooting in Bridgeport. Police briefing from 3 years ago. 2 Bridgeport police detectives on administrative leave. It's such nonsense. It's administrative leave. All right, let's go back to the man himself. Let's see if I can show you guys Carry On Us.
Oh, it's this one.
Oh, I'm in the wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, good lord. I about clicked on our own live stream.
Hmm?
I about clicked on our own live stream.
Oh.
Like, oh, right there. Who's Matt LaFountain? Let's see. I want to find a specific Court TV interview. Because, of course, Carry On Us took the Court TV interview. Because he's garbage. But let's put on for a bit what...
Rekia from News 12.
Let's go back.
I know we watched a little bit of this last night.
This one has some very interesting details and information in it. I think Court TV did a really good job. They hashtagged it Bumble, though, and I don't like people
Was healthy.
dick riding the
Was found dead.
platform blaming.
Met a man
You know.
on the dating app Bumble. Lauren Smith Fields is her name. They were together that night. He is the one who called 911 when he says he found her unresponsive. The family, not satisfied with the way the investigation was going, has put a lot of pressure on City Hall, on the police, and now some things are happening in the case, including the medical examiner finally, since December 12th, releasing a report claiming, ruling the death accidental, but finding fentanyl and other prescription drugs in her system. So the big question is, how did it get in her system? There's a criminal investigation that is underway. Let me read for you from the incident report. I think it's important because...
This is where Court TV... I could have high-fived the intern that got a hold of these records. These are actually this is kind of a hard thing to find, but in here you're going to have highlighted, right here, is Matt's statement by the police, from the police. This is the official, actual statement. So everything I've been saying about his candor when it comes to the moment of and the day of, right here.
Mm-hmm.
Court TV got it. Shout out the internet at Court TV who found these documents and highlighted this stuff, because I have a feeling when the intern was reading this, he was like, whoa!
Okay, so he does say that they ate some food.
Like a snack. Where?
Well, it just says they played some games, ate some food, and started to watch a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Textbook Netflix and chill gone wrong.
Yeah. Well, ate snacks, but wait till you hear the actual quotes.
Oh yeah.
From him in the moment.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
I have not heard from him that they ate anything. So knowing that that's confirmed is fine. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I think when asked, did you have any food with the alcohol, he said we had some snacks.
Yeah.
Is why it's in the report like that. So yeah, keep in mind it wasn't during his direct telling of the situation, it was after the fact when asked.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't, he did technically say it, but not moment
But
of.
it's not
It's
like
kind of my
that was
point.
not that didn't really seem like the plan.
He didn't give a hoot about
Yeah.
the snacks
Yeah.
verbally or, through motive, you can tell.
Give a hoot.
What was that?
Oh, you said give a hoot.
Give a hoot. They don't give a hoot.
Who was the man that she met on Bumble, who the dating app, called 911. And here's what, according to the police incident report, he said. He went on to say that they began drinking shots of tequila and Lauren became ill. She went to the bathroom to vomit.
Thank you, Jameson.
And was apologetic when she returned. They then decided to drink the tequila with mixers. Then told him that her brother was going to be dropping something off to her. She went outside for a few minutes. He never saw the brother. When she came back in, she went straight to the bathroom and she stayed there for 10 to 15 minutes. They continued to watch the movie and finished the bottle of tequila. Lauren fell asleep on the couch, so he carried her to the bedroom and laid her in her bed. He then laid down next to her. He woke up at approximately 3 a.m. to use the bathroom, and Lauren was snoring. He woke up again approximately 6:30 a.m., and she was laying on her right side. Blood was coming out of her nostril on the bed, and she was not breathing. That is when he called 911. The family...
Want to point out, he woke up at approximately 3 a.m. He noted that verbally in the initial police report, and that's strange to me.
It's oddly specific.
It's strange to me, and we'll get back to 3 a.m.
Questioning some of this, a lot of this, and we've been talking about this story, so we want to cover all sides of investigations that are ongoing and cases in court. We do it all the time here on Court TV. So we have a special guest joining us tonight by phone from Bridgeport, Connecticut, is the attorney for Matthew LaFountain. Peter Karianis is with us. Peter, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. I know it's kind of late in the night for you. You're working hard all day, but first, your reaction to the medical examiner's report that was released and the announcement that we've now got the Narcotics Task Force, the DEA, all working on this criminal investigation.
Good evening. Thanks for having me tonight. It's been a long day for sure. My client's been patiently waiting behind the scenes. Of course, he maintains his innocence throughout this whole process. We're not surprised with the toxicology report. We've been waiting for this day. First and foremost, let me say that this is a tragedy to lose such a beautiful young woman named Lauren Smith Fields. And that should be the major focus of the investigation is this tragic event that's taking place. As we know, the DEA has now been involved to assist the city of Bridgeport with this investigation, and we have full and uttermost faith that the truth will come out for Mr. LaFountain.
Okay, now I want to give you an opportunity to respond to some things that we've heard from the family's attorney, Darnell Crossland. As a matter of fact, they filed a notice of claim. They're going to sue the city of Bridgeport, so they had to file their claim of notice, and they did that, and I want to read part of that. According to the incident report, present at the scene was a white man named Matthew LaFountain. This man is old enough to be Lauren's father. Based on the way the scene was processed, there is reason to believe that Detective Cronin has some connection to Mr. LaFountain and may have unofficially arrived at the apartment to assist Mr. LaFountain in a cover-up around 3:30 a.m. prior to Mr. LaFountain officially dialing 911.
3 a.m. Cronin. Cover-ups.
Cronin was there at 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
That fuck.
Zero connection between any detectives and my client, Mr. LaFountain, in this matter. I just want to state that as a fact. And the
was
media
too busy
has been
reading
alleging
what
that
wasn't
Mr. LaFountain is a
highlighted.
married man who
I
is
wanted
50
to read
years
the whole
old. That can be
thing.
farther
Yeah,
from the truth.
that's
He is single. He is 37 years of age. I'm not sure if that makes him old enough to be the decedent's father.
Do the math. She's 23 years old.
What the
10 years older than that is 33. So he would have been 14, sure. There's 14-year-old dads.
Yeah.
Do some math.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
He's trying to play the...
It's nitpicky.
Don't do that.
He's playing the you frequently see people who are on the wrong side of an argument fall back on semantics. because they
That
don't
makes me
actually
mad
have
that
an
he was
argument.
like, well, I don't
they're
know
just
if
weak.
he was technically
Yeah.
old enough to be her father. You know what? He was 37 years old. She was 23.
What I hear in that statement is his fear of losing this, and a fear of this getting out of hand. He doesn't actually. You argue semantics like that when you don't actually have an argument, and that goes to people on the ground or on Facebook. If somebody like gets to the point they're just picking apart how you said something.
Mm-hmm. My 12-year-old does that when he knows he's lost an argument with me.
Yeah, it's like, well, you realize like socially you've already announced you've lost, right? Like it's solely for the selfish when they go into the semantic thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's solely a selfish talking point. Like, it's just to make themselves feel like they won.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I hear from Caryanis in that statement.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so Jameson said it's unwise to respond to the family's attorney. That's a youth mistake. Seasoned defense attorneys don't do that.
Nope.
Asterisk, he's a personal injury lawyer.
He's a personal injury lawyer.
He's not even a criminal one.
He's a young ambulance chaser who can't even
So
open his
absolutely
eyes
youth
for the
mistake.
photo
He
for
doesn't
court
even
TV.
know- he doesn't know how to do this.
He's a
He
baby.
doesn't know how to do this.
He sounds like a baby in law too. He doesn't sound like a seasoned.
If we're playing semantics, sir, you're old enough to be her father.
Exactly.
41 years old.
How
Do you
about
want to
that?
talk
Yeah.
about semantics?
Oh, I'd have known plenty of 16-year-old fathers. I'm from Arkansas. Ask me about 16. Ask me about teen pregnancy. I'll tell you about it.
Boy.
Ask me about it. I'm from Arkansas.
Sorry, that just made me mad.
All
I had
about
to pause
the-
it in the middle of that for him being like, I don't know if he was old enough to be your father. That's not the point of this conversation.
Buckle up. Caryanis is about to throw. I think he's already said too. We'll see who did what and who had what.
Father in this
He
case, but
he
let's just
crosses
set
the
record straight
line.
in that regard.
Single and 37. Gotcha. I want you to take a listen now. We've got, again, Darnell Crossland, who is the attorney for the family. I want you to hear what he had to say and then get your response to this.
Thanks.
In this particular case, there's definitely toxicity, but where did the drugs come from? And why did they question this white man who met this young black girl on Bumble? This young girl didn't use drugs at all. She went to the gym every single day. She worked out. She don't have any plastic surgery like a lot of these models have, like surgery. She has none of that. It's all natural. And the family is so close, they knew that she wasn't using drugs or any other type of pills. But yet still, this white man is just floating in the air and there's no examination. Go to his house, check his credit card, see that he buy the tequila, see that he spiked the tequila. He said that he slept with his clothes on and he never had sex. Yet we forced them to collect a condom with semen in it from the bathroom. And here we are a month later, the condom is collected finally 2 weeks after the death. And now we're 4 weeks and nothing has been submitted to the laboratory in Meriden, the forensic laboratory, for testing. So we are really at a loss here and we're not going to stop until we get justice.
Not even submitted for testing yet.
Freaking wild.
It's ridiculous.
All right, Peter, the big question is, was there a sexual relationship between your client and Lauren?
There was no sexual relationship between the two. And regarding the Bridgeport police and their investigation, I can't speak as to why they did X, Y, or Z, or why they didn't do X, Y, or Z. But the fact that Mr. LaFountain is a white male, plays no relevance in my mind as to whether or not Bridgeport properly investigated this case. As I stated earlier, the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration is now involved, and I'm sure that they will take all proper avenues to investigate this matter fully.
If your client's asked, would he submit his DNA without a court order?
I would have to. I have no comment about that. Whether or not he give a DNA sample at this point.
Nah, hung him up. It's because he's already been told by his client that his semen is in fact in that condom.
Yeah.
And that he lied to police.
Crazy part is the semen is like the sperm itself is probably dead by now.
Investigators at this point.
They can still find him on that.
They can still find DNA, yeah.
They'll still find.
They can
him.
still find DNA. I'm just trying to be
dealing with the investigators as,
clear here.
from the
Yeah.
onset of
What
this
kind
case.
of DNA they're gonna
He
find.
was the first one to discover her not breathing. He called 911. I believe he spent over 3 hours being investigated by the local authorities, and they didn't suspect him of any foul play. So he
was interrogated for the entirety of the Avatar movie.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be clear. 3 hours?
That's not that long. We watch interrogations all the time on this channel that are well over 8.
Yeah.
And for innocent people. Just clearing innocent people.
Yeah.
Not even just innocent people. I watched not the full 7 hours, but a 7-hour interrogation of a woman who, in the first 30 seconds, went, "Yeah, I shot him in the face."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is caca nonsense.
Yeah.
Like an hour of that's prep time, and then another hour of it is them discharging the guy from the interrogation. So he only was questioned for probably an hour, hour and a half, maybe.
You can get
maybe.
Like, you can't get in and out of the ER like that fast. I don't.
Hell no, probably not in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Not anywhere.
Not anywhere. I had that when I was a teenager. I was unfortunate. I had an allergic reaction on my skin that went across my face, and I had to go to the ER alone. And that even that as a teenager, where I was, took longer than 3 hours.
Oh.
Yeah.
To get through. Gosh. And I was having like an actual allergic reaction on my face when I showed up to the front desk. Like, it was already in my mouth. Like, I could tell it was starting to like swell my face, and I was like in trouble. And it still took over 3 hours.
Oh man.
Yeah. Like,
that's if they don't forget you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so crazy.
The one time I was in false labor, and they forgot me in a room until 6 a.m. the next morning. So, like...
like, what the hell?
That's crazy. So I've never had medical treatment like that. They normally, again, I'm a white male, and I've felt the privilege of it in my town. And I'd be a fool not to speak up on the privilege that I've felt of it. And I've seen them bump me in front of, and up in a line because I'm passing a kidney stone over people who are actively bleeding.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely the kind of person where if you were to have asked me my preference, I'd say take care of the people who are losing a limb first.
Mm-hmm.
Pass stones all the time, we'll be fine. Just definitely want that morphine quicker than later. But it's just ridiculous.
That's 3 hours.
Only a 3-hour interrogation. Yeah.
What details are you going to give in 3 hours?
They wanted him to reconfirm the story they heard on the scene, and then they let him go. That's what happened.
That's not even enough to like properly get into an anime. I don't understand.
Yeah,
Exactly. Like you're barely into an actual series of something. I don't know. We've seen interrogations on here. We've watched, I mean, hell, the Heaven's Gate tapes are what, like 8 hours of footage? That took 3 days. Yeah. Like come on. 3 hour, and that's a 1.5 hour line of questioning at best, at most.
Yeah, like I said,
a
7-hour interrogation to understand why a woman walked into a police station and said, "I shot my nephew in the face."
Yeah. Even when it's somebody who's like, no, I'm absolutely guilty of some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Take my statement.
You gotta be thorough, and you gotta get the details. What details are you gonna get in 3 hours?
None. They just reconfirmed. They probably had a list of the things he had said, and then he said them again. And he said, "All right, you're good to go." And then they checked it off in crayon or whatever.
I saw somebody earlier say that it was routine to not criminally investigate drug overdoses. They investigate them the same as suicides, and I'm like, but there was no investigation.
There was no investigation. This wasn't investigated at all, like anything. This was
and
just
if that
turned
is
over
the
like,
truth.
Yeah, this was just turned over like it was an accident.
Yeah, well, and if that is the truth, right? Say they do investigate, and I haven't asked my stepdad this, probably should have. But say they do investigate it as if it was a suicide. In a suicide, they take evidence so they can piece together what happened so they can confirm it as a suicide.
Yeah.
And the suicide evidence is usually like, hey, we took the shotgun, here's some pictures. Clearly this is what happened. And the coroner's like, in and out. But in this case, they took a few things that seem pretty important, but didn't do anything with them and went, yeah, it's fine.
They didn't take anything from the scene initially.
Not initially, yeah. And well, that's the thing is like
The
they
family
didn't even
had to
take
insist
anything.
upon it. They almost treated it as if it was a suicide. Well, less than a suicide, like it was an accident. Like they saw somebody accidentally die, like they had witnessed it. Is how they treated
Yeah.
it. Like there's times where like if a public death occurs and it was obviously an accident, someone falls off of something really tall in front of a bunch
Yeah.
of people, you'll see it handled like this.
Mhm.
Where
Yeah, exactly,
The
where it's
possessions
like,
are handed
okay.
over, but in this case, it was less than even that.
Yeah, it's
They didn't
almost
even
as if Cronin
notify
was
the
there at
family.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Like it still seems like even if you publicly 50,000 people saw you jump to your death or fall to your death, I still feel like they're gonna take it.
Yeah.
Some witness statements.
That's the point I was just making. What Jameson said there. Yeah, you inform
the family members.
the family members. This was treated less than an accidental anything. But
Exactly.
But I don't think it'll ever be considered or investigated from the realm of like specifically suicide, only because she was in bed next to somebody. How many times have you heard of
Yeah.
somebody killing
Well,
themselves in bed next to somebody?
Yeah, but that's kind of
That's
the point
yeah.
I think that Jameson is trying to make is that they even inform families,
Oh yeah.
family
Yeah,
members of
absolutely.
a suicide.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't even inform the family.
That's my point. This is
Yeah.
less. This is treated as less than even an accidental death. Like it was. They didn't inform the family in 2 different cases on the same day.
It
feel
was
like that's also
exactly the
policy.
way.
It's 100%
Yeah.
policy. That's why they were suspended.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah, absolutely.
It's 100%
But
policy.
you do that twice in one day? At
Twice
least?
in one
Twice
day.
in one day?
That was caught.
Less than 5 minutes away from each other. Now, these 2 women only lived a few minutes away from each other.
And while I don't think their deaths were related, I think the drug that killed both of them is. I think
I
the
think
person
so
who
too.
manufactured it is attached to this situation. And I also think that the Cronin in particular is attached to this situation. Like,
Yeah.
imagine a town where the cops are in on helping gangs push drugs and like where they're getting
Do we
it from
know?
is-
Do we know how old? Because his name's Kevin Cronin. Do we know how old he is?
Yes, he is. I have it in my notes.
Isn't he also in his 40s?
He's in his 40s.
Okay.
Mid 40s, I believe. He's a little bit older than both Carrianis and Matt, but again, they know each other. We can confirm that Matt LaFountain does indeed know Detective Cronin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They know each other. And that is the theory, is that he, at 3:30 a.m.
Why else was he there at 3 o'clock in the morning if he didn't even call 911 till 6:30?
Mm-hmm.
And also, you were not asleep.
Mm-mm.
Period.
No,
like,
that
by
night at
3
all.
o'clock, you were not
No.
asleep. You were awake.
Mm-hmm. No
Because
way.
Cronin was there.
Well, in midnight,
What other business would Cronin have had?
midnight, Lakeem was there, lights were on, and they were still awake, and she seemed cognitive and barely drunk.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think he was away. I think
Y'all
a
fell
lot of what
asleep?
happened.
Right after Keem left?
I think a lot of what happened around 2 or 3, probably
Yeah.
2. Yeah, I don't think he slept that night. I think
yeah.
he was up that whole night. And oof. I'm gonna press play on this.
Nothing but
This March.
helping.
I wish
the
we
authorities.
were close to it.
Gotcha,
Could have gone,
gotcha.
but I'm
And,
glad we don't live in Connecticut.
I want you to take a listen. This
Right?
is Lauren's brother who spoke to us last night on the program. He saw his sister that night, and in the statement that I read, your client, I guess, heard from Lauren that her brother was coming over. I want you to hear his description of what he was there doing that night and get your response to that as well.
The last time I saw Lauren, we went shopping that day, Christmas shopping. Bought a lot of items. We came back to my mom's house just to show her a couple of things to hang out with her. Lauren ended up leaving the house. She took some of my clothes. I went to go grab my clothes. She looked it perfectly fine. This gentleman said that she was intoxicated and drunk when he first met her. I didn't see any view of that. I mean, I knew my sister for 23 years. I've been around her my whole entire life. And she didn't look, she looked at like regular her. Upbeat, smiling, talking, laughing, joking, just regular Lauren.
Lakeem, let me ask you, to me, every time you're trying to put together what happened, timeline is so important. About what time did you see your sister that night, so we can see how large or small that window of time is from when she appears normal to when she ends up dead?
3
I got
a.m.
phone records. I seen my sister around 11:50 that night.
Okay, Peter, how does the
Get ready to get
timeline
mad,
work
guys.
out here? Now he's saying that she seemed fine at 11:50 at night. What time do we know what time they fell asleep? Has your client told investigators about that?
Yeah, I don't have any details about the time or the timeline of the events. Like I said, the authorities will investigate, who came to the house, who dropped off what, if at
The
all.
attorney does not have the details of the timeline of his client's evening on December 12th.
Did you hear what he followed up with? Did you hear what he said there? Hold
No,
on.
I was hanging on to the fact that
Details
he's
about
like,
the
I
time
don't
or
know.
the timeline of the events. Like I said, the authorities will investigate, who came to the house, who dropped off what, if at all. And let's not forget that the victim in this matter, Lauren.
Don't pedal back to Lauren
The
like
victim.
you give a shit, Carrie Honest.
Wait a minute,
Who
I have a
dropped off
question.
what?
Yeah.
Why are we calling her a victim? If she had an accidental overdose, then why? What is she a victim of?
They'll investigate
His
who
own
dropped off what.
his own words. Again, from
you
the
kidding
attorney's
me?
own words, there are almost like these implied guilty indictments from that
The
side.
victim.
And it's like already you can tell he's trying to mudsling at the other side. He's trying to make it out like, yeah, we'll see who brought what and if they even did. He just dropped a bunch of context-less non-dribble,
Your
but what it
client
says
said
to
it.
me,
And so did the brother.
yeah,
She said it to him. My brother's here. I'm going to go outside.
yep,
What the hell do you mean who dropped off what?
yeah. He's trying to make it out like the drugs in her system were dropped off by Lakeem and taken by her willingly. And he just implied that with he just out loud, like a poor young defense attorney, like a horrible, like an ambulance chaser,
Poor young personal injury lawyer.
like a poor young ambulance chaser. Despicable behavior. On
So I want real quick before you even continue this video, I do want to touch on what we were agreeing about what Jameson was saying. He said, I'm not going to go into this, but if you call an officer or your lawyer before making an official 911 call, you're very likely guilty of something. Of something.
Well, no innocent person has something
Cronin
like this
there?
happen.
Why was Cronin
and
there
then
at 3:30 in the
turns
morning?
I'll expound upon it.
And why wasn't that in the police report?
Yeah. Yeah.
If we knew about it.
Well, this is why, in my opinion, Matt LaFountain's camp doesn't want these text messages out. Doesn't want his phone records out.
Yeah. It probably
I
shows that he might have called Cronin.
think he definitely did. I think he definitely did.
And lost.
We'll know more when
Maybe
we
she
start
was-
building a timeline.
That makes me wonder, maybe she was still alive at 3:30. But still just out of it because of the drugs.
Maybe.
And then I'm not trying to speculate too much, but there's not too many reasons why Detective Cronin should be at your house at at this girl's house at 3:30 in the morning unless you're concerned she might die.
Well,
Or
even
she
if
said
you're
he did.
concerned that she might die, why would you?
Why
I
would
don't
you
know
call
why you
Cronin
would call a
first?
detective.
You need
Why
to call
would
an
you
ambulance.
call specifically Cronin if you woke up to somebody, let's say, convulsing and having
Yeah.
a visual
Exactly.
overdose in
Yeah.
front of you, seizing?
What the hell would you call a detective for? You'd call 911.
It's because Cronin's corrupt, in my opinion. This is why I've been saying things like I think the police are involved with the GHB in this area.
Let's not forget that. And
That's-
our sincerest condolences go out to the to Lauren's family.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Not if you call her a victim.
The alcohol that night. Did your client provide the alcohol? Was the alcohol at her home? Did they purchase it together?
I have no comments about any alcohol. I'm not aware of any who purchased it or who consumed it or where it came from.
What?
Yes, you are.
Oh,
What?
we are from your client's statement. He says he brought it. Your client did. I wonder why.
Why do I know more about this case than he does?
Well, he's not going to say it because he doesn't want the narrative to go there.
But
Yeah.
it already went there.
If
It
you
already
notice,
went-
the
we
things he
already
will
did.
answer questions on are the character of Lauren's family.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the actual physical evidence attached to this case, boy, does he not have anything to say. Isn't it funny?
The stuff that's already documented.
Yeah. Yeah, why can't you say your,
I mean, don't get me wrong.
why can't you reiterate your client's own statement?
I mean, but don't get me wrong, I totally get, like, as an attorney, I'm sure he's trying to not comment on anything, but, like, why would you leave yourself open to speculation on the family? Why wouldn't you just say no comment? Also, why would you accept this interview?
Yeah,
if you were just going to say no comment the whole time? That's kind of like Lil Wayne showing up to a deposition.
Oh yeah, just to,
where he's just like, I don't remember.
I don't remember. I remember that one. I plead the fifth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I remember that one, but I plead the fifth.
like, why are you treating this interview like an interrogation of yourself?
Yeah, because again, guilt. Like Jameson said in the chat really eloquently. Like, there's a lot of things that psychologically and verbally you could hear. These are indictments of guilt on the party, on the defense's part.
Exactly, Jameson. He's like, you don't go on TV unless you can answer every possible question.
Yes.
Unless you are willing to answer the questions, why would you even? Why? Like, he had to consent to this.
Yep.
There's consent here.
Oh, he wanted to be on court TV because this is a publicity, and he's looking at this as a promotion. Carry honest, this is a social promotion into being a better type of attorney, to being a criminal defense attorney. But he's
how much digging have you guys done into Cronin?
A lot.
I'm gonna dig a hell of a lot. I just found a thing that said he made $110,000 last year. That's 118% higher than your national average.
That's what he reported on his taxes too. So keep in mind, anything cash underground, you don't have to report. It's also really interesting.
That is a hell of a lot of money for any sort of police officer, department, anything.
It's also weird how, like, unusually reported on he is sometimes in that town. We'll get into Cronin. We're gonna have a whole episode after we build. Okay. Yeah, we have an episode that's going to be titled 3:30 a.m.
Yeah.
So, it's
I
going
just
to be
can't
Thursday.
believe that it's documented. I just can't believe it's documented that we know Cronin was there at 3:30 in the morning.
Well, it's been officially speculated because there's a corroborating eyewitness. There's apparently something the police have in this investigation that we don't, that made them write that in a report.
Yeah. Like, they know he was there.
Because, again, this is information we get from the police. This isn't speculation I'm getting from Reddit.
Yeah.
Like, this is...
That's what I'm saying. These are official documents. So the original statement from 6 o'clock at 6:49 or whatever the hell in the morning does not mention Cronin. But later down the line is when they find out Cronin was there.
He's also one of the two to respond.
Yeah.
And the other...
Yeah, he was one of the ones who freaking responded, but he didn't ever mention that he was there at 3:30 in the morning. He was there 3 hours earlier.
Also be really interested to see who the cops were that interrogated him. Because I bet you Cronin was one of them.
For sure.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah. There's no way he wasn't.
This case,
and if he wasn't, it was the other guy or like somebody close to Cronin where he was like, hey, can you do this? Like, just interview my friend real quick.
I believe out of the two, Cronin was senior investigator, so he would have been the one who leading an interrogation into the case. So,
because at the evening that this happened, nobody saw the conflict of interest because it wasn't documented that he was there at 3:30 in the morning. So then I bet when they found that out was when they suspended him.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because they're like, why the hell were you there and why didn't you tell us?
Why were you there? Yeah. Why didn't you tell us?
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell us?
Why didn't you say anything?
You should have said something.
If you knew.
Yeah.
If you knew you were there at 3:30 in the morning, why didn't that make it to the police report? Why didn't he document that in the police report?
Despicable.
Like, that's insane to me.
Yeah.
Talking about on court TV, a lot of folks are talking about it. How is this impacting your client right now? All that's happening.
Obviously, this has been, my client's very upset about the whole situation. He was hanging out with a friend that he had recently met. He's very upset about the whole situation.
That's not a friend, that's an acquaintance.
Of course,
that's 4 days.
It's an acquaintance. They met December 8th, and she was gone by December 12th. That's not a friend. He didn't speak about her like they were friends.
I just want to be specific.
He was very clearly there for sex.
You don't call her a friend.
Matt LaFountain was very clearly there for sex and to get as much of that tequila into her as possible. Yeah, not a friend.
On anybody. We first, he's been wanting to give a statement for a while now. we've just kind of been keeping things quiet. And thanks to Frank Recchia from News 12 here in Connecticut today, who gave us the opportunity to give us our side of the story. And obviously, he's very upset as well.
So the drug part of all this.
You could tell that, yeah, you could tell by his reaction, like, oh, wow, so you're full of shit, huh?
Like,
so your client's guilty, huh? Like, that's...
It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
What do you mean your side of the story? There's no side of the story that's been released. You've done nothing but send out this convoluted, weirdly detailed statement.
And
stuck to it.
Implied mudslinging at the Smith Fields camp, which is nonsense.
They weren't there that night.
None of them have woken up with somebody dead next to them.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about Matt, the person who woke up with somebody
Especially after you were talking to Cronin at 3:30 in the morning. How did you fall back asleep and magically wake up to her being dead? Like, that's just...
I've never seen a more obvious person of interest
so stupid.
Get ignored by local police.
That blew the whole...
Yeah.
There's no...
Yeah, and if
in
they...
my mind, no, you were not asleep.
No, not at any point that night. Based on Jameson, exactly. Jameson could make up a better side of the story based on 5 articles that he's read. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, you could. I could. Anybody could defend this man better than Karianis. But again, I also feel like there's no defending Matt LaFountain. I think he's obviously guilty. Yeah, I think he tried to drug Lauren. I think he did drug Lauren, and that's why we're here. Definitely Matt. Oh, I can't stand that.
That's the damn shot glass.
Did your client see drugs that night? Did he see the pill that the family found afterwards? Did he see Lauren ingest anything? Did he ingest anything that night?
Regarding any drugs, he did not see any. He did not ingest any, and we have no idea what Lauren may or may not have done that night. Obviously, looking back at the toxicology report yesterday, we know that drugs were at play here and that this was ruled an accidental overdose. So obviously drugs were at play.
It's so easy for him to answer that question.
My client did not see any of that.
So
easy every other question he didn't want to answer.
The alcohol.
No, he didn't do drugs. No, he didn't see drugs. He didn't see pills. He didn't do drugs.
Well, he's alive, so let's get a blood test. Let's get some follicle tests from the dude.
You can't. He's bald.
Well, there's other hairs you can pull. There's other hairs you can pull.
I bet they'll find it in the condom.
Yeah,
they'll find those hairs in that condom.
Ew, God.
There's a lot.
It's gross, I know, but you'll find it
from spectroanalysis too. Yeah, it's
like a kid called into a radio show.
Karianis is a poor attorney. I've been, It's unfortunate that when we have to ask the question, who is Matt LaFountain, we are met with the face of Peter Karianis right now, and not Matt's actual face, which again, I'm assuming is a hell of a lot different than that Chad Bumble photo. Mm-hmm. I got a feeling he's not the Chad in that Bumble photo.
Mm-hmm.
The photo I saw, he looked pretty gangly and the opposite of that yoked traveler. The opposite of that. Which again, that's a whole different level of...
And
predator.
Did he just meet her that night?
Not sure about the time.
That's like you have somebody who'd kill somebody and then somebody who'd catfish, right? And I genuinely think that we have evidence to say Matt LaFountain he is a date raping catfisher.
Like,
I think
it's just one of those things where she probably, saw the pictures. She was like, and then he shows up and just looks like a more deflated version of those pictures.
Oh yeah.
But she still has to be like, okay, like she's still a nice girl, so she's like, all right, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
We'll hang out.
I've done that before.
If you're funny, you're funny.
I've done that before.
Yeah, I've definitely had some ladies show up on a dating app, not show up looking at all the same. But yeah, no heat, no static. I didn't say nothing. You don't do nothing, But yeah, sometimes she don't look like Janet Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
no, absolutely.
It goes both ways for sure.
Absolutely, and you can't fault somebody for doing that. Again, that speaks, in my opinion, to the just in favor of the good person that Lauren obviously was. She's a good person. She made us laugh last night.
Mm-hmm. It was so fun last night to see her videos.
Yeah. It's good to see what she was like to everybody around her, too. That story about her first kiss turned into a fight. Funny. She's really good editing, too. She's
Timeline as to when
she
they
had
met.
skills.
So this may or may not have been the
Can't
first time
comment
that
on the
they've gotten
timeline.
together?
About when they met.
Correct. Yeah. We're not. I'm not sure about the timeline as to when they first met. Correct.
All right. I also want to give you the opportunity. Is there anything else
bet those
that
text
you've heard
messages could.
anywhere reported that, from your perspective, is false, is not right, is wrong, that is being reported or said about what happened that night or your client?
Well, they've been portraying him as a 50-year-old married male, married with children, which is, couldn't be farther from the truth.
Who said that?
Well, there's a bunch of Matt LaFountains, so when this thing first popped off, they found some unfortunate 50-year-old, like, father of three Matt LaFountain.
Oh.
And we're like, you did it! And you catfished! And you're the worst! And he was there with his groceries like, what?
Poor guy.
Wrong Matt LaFountain! You're
guy.
looking for the other one.
There's 4 of them.
He's 37, and he's an engineer, and he date rapes. And
I've seen a lot of people on Facebook that are named Matt LaFountain. I guess I didn't realize how common the name was.
Yes.
And I've seen a lot.
Oh, I used to say it was kind of the
these
same with
poor Matt LaFountains being like,
Yeah.
listen, this dude's a piece of shit, but that's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, okay, Jameson honestly just reminded me of a point I was genuinely wanting to make earlier too. The
SA victims.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no telling how many times he's used Bumble like that.
Oh, and not just him. Again,
Beforehand.
GHB is very common in
Yeah.
Bridgeport, Connecticut. So like I was saying earlier, like how many more cases like these two that we have examples of there most likely are just out of Cronin's career alone. Just out of Cronin's alone. And this is why there's not this is to answer Jameson's question. That's why there's not more reported SA in that area, is because it's all covered up. It's all covered up. And again, this will come out later. I bet if we can get some justice into that police force, if we can get the feds to come and break it up and really investigate thoroughly. But when the community has no faith in the law enforcement, they're not gonna report things like that, or that the victims they do report it and it doesn't go anywhere.
Because they get that treatment where they don't even assess the scene.
Yeah. But I think the lack of it being there, but there also being GHB incredibly common in their legal, like being litigated against or in their rehabs. The fact that there's not SA, that says a lot about how the people on the ground trust or how the authorities actually handle SA cases. They don't do anything about it. It really feels that way in Bridgeport.
So I would just ask that the people who are watching the story very intensely just let all the facts come out before they jump to any conclusions. I know he's been called a murderer. His parents have been called murderers. His family has been called murderers. I'd ask that people that ask all the facts come out before they jump to conclusions about what may not have happened on that night. And like I said earlier, let's remember the real victim in this case, Lauren Smith Fields, who is no longer with us. Such a beautiful soul.
And
I'd like to point something out about Peter Karianis. I just noticed his voice is drawn in a way uncommon for the Connecticut area. His eyes are pinned in that photo. He has a little bit of extra weight. I am going to speculate that he maybe has an opiate issue himself, the attorney.
Have you seen his professional page?
No, I have not.
Let me find it.
Sounds
not
messy.
Not uncommon in people of his character type. Normally you'll see people like Peter. I've seen people work car sales jobs, pushing their way through the ends of law school and stuff like that. And these people, they Adderall, opiates, stuff like that, become a very common thing.
It's part of getting an edge.
Yeah.
I know a couple people in college just for a fucking business degree.
Yeah.
Took unprescribed Adderall.
Yeah.
Like that's not uncommon.
To look at who the pain management doctors in that area are.
Yeah.
In Bridgeport. because I got a feeling there's some prescriptions going out in that town that don't need to be going out. And like as a systemic issue.
Client have any message for the family?
He's not going to be making any statements at this time.
Okay. If he does want to make a statement, he's welcome on this program. We're on every night, 3 hours every night, Peter. So that is an open invitation. Yep. We always want.
I didn't hear him.
I
didn't hear him extend that open invitation to Lakeem or the Smith Fields camp, which is some old nonsense. But I think it's because he knows this guy's gonna spill. I think he knows he's got the guilty party on tap. I think his journalistic spider sense started tingling on Peter. You saw it happen at one point. Remember that moment where he's like, "What was that response?" All right, next question.
Like,
we're gonna keep an eye on you, friend.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna keep an eye on you.
Joe Exotic.
Right.
Yeah, Joe Exotic's always back in the news.
I dropped his picture in the YouTube chat.
Okay. Peter Kirianis. Oh God, yeah, no, I did see that actually. It's a little too small for me to be able to put on screen, but yeah, Pillhead.
He looks like somebody we went to school with, but also played football and then just grew up and didn't know what else to do.
Yeah, didn't know what else to do. Just kind of ate opiates and it started working at his dad's dealership or something. You know, like,
yeah.
But his voice, his demeanor, is the way he talked in that. I have a working theory about all the people attached to Matt LaFountain, and that's they are opiate addicts. But a lot of people in Bridgeport, Connecticut are. It does seem like a genuine problem.
Yeah.
But we are at the end of the program, guys. What do we have anything to say in closing on the question and the topic? Who is Matt LaFountain?
I got nothing.
I will say who he is to me is potentially somebody guilty of SA and homicide. Second degree through drugging. I don't think he necessarily meant to kill anybody, but I do think he meant to sexually assault Lauren, and that's how we ended up where we are. I also think I think he's a dirty catfisher too until I see his face. If he don't look like that Studley Bumble photo, which look, my Bumble photo looked pretty hot. All right, like you gotta look attractive. I get it, but it was indeed a photo of me, not someone else.
Yeah.
You know, like not someone else. And that's my big takeaway this evening is I still feel he's a victim. You know, I've looked into every other potential angle at it. What if it wasn't Matt? What if this was all an accident? And again, I keep coming around to the fact that who this person is to me is a despicable human and somebody I could never understand. I've never brought a bottle of tequila to a Bumble date. I've never insisted somebody get so much alcohol in them that they want to take their clothes off with me and drop their consent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, or like give their consent and drop their inhibition. Like that's not me. I don't understand that. And this guy, I can't say I know anybody who does that and isn't predacious.
There's a few things I have issues with here, and even if we're gonna sit here and pretend, let's say for a second that Matt is innocent and this was all just a horrible accident. What kind of asshole brings tequila to a Bumble date? And then, can we please mention the inappropriateness of climbing into bed with an incredibly drunk, passed out individual?
Another thing I would never do, something I said on social media the other day, like most of my long-held personal platonic relationships are with females. I would never do that to you or any of my close female friends. Like,
no. I
might throw a blanket over you on a couch or like carry you to bed and drop you off, but I'm not gonna no. No, I don't want that.
Yeah.
No, like that's not what.
Like you've definitely taken a pot and put it next to my head before and been like, "Here you go, please be careful."
Yeah, for the puke. Yeah. Like you don't do that. You don't. That's not. He's lying. And again, I think he's because he's lying. I think he's a liar too.
That's it's so incredibly inappropriate. She's a stranger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's a stranger. You're a stranger to her. What the fuck are you doing?
What are you doing? And why do you think? How could that in what world? Again, like the audacity and there's the police taking that story and not seeing anything suspect about it. Like you said, like, well, then why'd you hop in bed with an intoxicated girl is what anybody would say. Like, what do you mean this wasn't a sexual situation? Like, there's so many things in his initial statement at that scene that were grounds for an investigation.
You mean to tell me that this man told you that he hopped into bed with a woman that he had never met before up until this night, and you found a used condom in the bathroom later on, and at some point in time you didn't go, huh?
Why is that there? And why doesn't any of the things I'm looking at match your story, friend?
Odd. Weird. He says he never saw drugs there. Funny. Her brother just found a pill.
Yep. And it
was clearly out enough for him to be like, hey, this is weird. But he never saw it. Matt never saw it.
That was a little bit of the theme for 2 seconds. Sorry, guys. Queuing up the outro. Catch these live technical difficulties, boy. I like to think we're getting just as solid as CNN soon, right? And then a booger just flies out of my nose. The cat explodes into confetti. We're like, no, we're wrong. Why did we do this live? Why didn't I pre-record and edit this 5-part series? But oh, good lord, that derailed me. What were we just talking about? Matt LaFountain, I'm sure. But no, there's the amount of skeevy opiate nonsense that falls all around everybody but Lauren if you look into their lives.
Yeah.
Just doesn't fit. There's something going on. Tomorrow we're going to build our timeline. We're going to put it up on the screen. I'm going to make sure I have, a text graphic ready for it. We're going to build our timeline. We're going to explain our timeline and why we think we're right in it and go from there. After that, we're going to talk about probably, in my opinion, the most significant moment in our timeline, which is 3:30 a.m. So stick around, guys. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe for Lauren. We have the Justice for Lauren GoFundMe, which helps help raise legal funds for Lauren Smith Fields family. We have that in the description below. I've been watching the GoFundMe rise, and that makes me feel really good. I'm not saying we did that or had anything to do with that. I like that this is getting attention. I feel like this story needs just as much attention as Gabby Petito got. Bridgeport, Connecticut isn't going to build a statue for Lauren. They're not going to put a park bench in.
No.
They didn't want to investigate.
Molly Golightly might actually show up, though.
If the views take her there, we'll see. I don't know if she'll return to the Lauren Smith Fields case. I saw her do one stream about it, but I don't know if it performed the way she wanted. But it's not about performance for me in this one. I hope if even one person hits that GoFundMe or helps themselves or realizes something about a situation they're getting into or that they're in, liberate themselves from being a victim is what I'm saying. If it happens to even one person, is worth it. But thank you, Arianthe, Lux. It's been a pleasure tonight, even though we've had to talk about an asshole.
Yeah, because either way you look at it, that's exactly what he is. He's an asshole.
He's an asshole. Who is Matt LaFountain? Well, here at Merc Radio, the Merc Radio crew, we consider him an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Bona fide asshole. All right. Thank you so much again, Arianthe. I'm going to pop out of the Discord.
Absolutely. Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
And everybody out there in digital world, again, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you share this, please put the hashtag Justice for Lauren and share that GoFundMe as well. But if you could share this video, as much attention as this can get, I feel this is a story that didn't get the press it deserved, and this family might not get the justice they deserve because there's no public outroar and world attention on it. And if attention can be put on this case, you can fix things like corruption in Bridgeport. I genuinely think there is good to be done. All right. You guys have a good evening.